Bill led the way, while Boadicea and Chad danced to the musician's old concertina. After traveling for some time, they came across a real soldier, searching for something in the grass. Bill stopped and said, "What are you looking for?" "A medal," growled the formidable creature. And Chad hid behind a bush at the sight of his horrifying selection of weaponry. "A medal?" asked Bill.
"Aye," snapped the grumpy warrior. "You know, a medal for bravery, courage, heroism, and all that sort of thing."
"How did you come to be awarded such an impressive decoration?" asked Boadicea, rather taken with his distinguished regalia. This question seemed to transport the somber veteran to another time and place. He slowly stiffened to attention and began to relate his story.
"I was with the gallant 53rd when we were sent to relieve a tiny island under attack by that notorious jackal, rogue, hooligan and villain, Reginald Benbrisket. After a comfortable, if tedious journey, we were greeted on the beach by the president of the island. And when we sat down to a splendid cold supper, he stood up to make a speech. He'd got no further than 'Ladies and gentlemen, it is not that we,' when there was a thump at the door. And in stalked the infamous Reginald himself. Slowly withdrawing his gaze from the refreshments, he snarled,
'I demand of the President the instant surrender to me of this island as my rightful property, it having been left to me by a late aunt, whose favourite I have always been.'
And he produced the last will and testament of one Martha Grubb. On reading this document, the President turned pale, not having anticipated the strength of the invader's position. And the rogue, imagining that he was about to realize his greatest hopes, helped himself to a sandwich. But the President, who had some knowledge of legal matters, had spotted a flaw.
"I do not dispute that your Aunt Martha did indeed leave the island to you, but I do dispute that it was hers to leave."
At this, the irascible Reginald completely lost his temper and strode from the hall. We had an early night in order to be prepared for the battle that was bound to follow. I, unable to sleep, strolled down to the sea. Here, I found a solitary bathing machine. I crept beneath it and began to doze. I awoke suddenly to heavy footsteps on the floor above me. Presently, the seaward door of the machine opened, and its mysterious tenant stood revealed by the light of the moon. It was the terrible Reginald Benbrisket. He crossed the pebbles to the edge of the sea and plunged in. Thinking fast, I slid from my resting place and nailed up the landward door. And when Reginald returned to change out of his wet things, I sealed the seaward door in a similar fashion. And I pushed the machine out into the open sea.
"So you won your medal for disposing of Reginald Benbrisket?" asked Chad.
"Not at all," growled the old campaigner. "It were for rescuing the buccaneer from a watery grave. You see, apparently, it were proved that Martha Grubb did own the island, having inherited it from a distant uncle. And Reginald Benbrisket, as the new president, awarded me my missing medallion."
Meanwhile, Bill had constructed a clever gadget for finding small items that have gone astray. Boadicea pinned the recovered medal to the soldier's tunic and said, "We are trying to find a new orchestra for our friend the musician. Why don't you come with us?" And the brave trooper marched forward across the down.